You know, when you think about travel, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Is it the Eiffel Tower, the Colosseum, those perfect picture postcard moments? Well, today we're going to talk about a totally different way to see the world, one that goes way beyond the surface and gets right into the heart of a place. All right, let's get into it. So, I got to ask you this question right up front. Are you a tourist or are you a traveler? It sounds simple, but your answer really changes everything. Are you just there to check off the sites on a list, or are you there to actually understand a place from the inside out? It's really the difference between just watching and, truly connecting. And this really lays out the two paths you can take. On one side, you've got the classic tourist route, right? Staying in youth hostels, hanging out with other English-speaking backpackers, and getting what one person called just a superficial glimpse. But on the other side, there's this chance to live with local families, to actually try speaking the language, and to really truly absorb the culture. Now, that quote is from a young Australian guy named Miles Barson. He was planning this big trip to Italy, but he just had this nagging feeling that the usual backpacker thing wasn't going to give him what he was really hungering for. He wanted the real deal. So what did he do about it? Well, this is where his story gets super interesting because it introduces us to a completely different way of thinking about travel. So instead of just booking a bunch of hostels, Miles found this program called SYLE. That's SYLE, which stands for Service Youth Language Experience. And this was basically his ticket to get off that well-worn tourist path and right into the day-to-day lives of Italian families. And wow, what an experience it turned out to be. This wasn't just about finding a free place to crash. No, this was about total, full-on immersion. I mean, listen to that quote from Miles. It just perfectly captures the warmth of it all. It's not like checking into a hotel. It's about a real human connection. It's about sharing a meal and trying to talk about your day, even if it's in really broken Italian. And just look at this stuff. You are not going to find these things in any travel guide. He ate a spaghetti dish made by a local mayor. He visited a dairy farm and even sat in on classes at 2 different Italian schools. This is what it means to actually live somewhere, not just visit. And he even gave back a little taste of his home by cooking shepherd's pie for his hosts. How cool is that? So Miles' story is amazing, for sure. But you might be thinking it was just a lucky one-off thing. Well, it's not. It's all part of a structured program. So how does this thing actually work? Okay, here's the absolute key. With a program like SYLE, you are not a guest. Let me repeat that. You are not a guest. You're treated like a temporary member of the family. That means you're sharing meals, you're helping out with chores, you're part of their everyday life. It's a total shift in perspective. So here are the nuts and bolts. A typical stay is about 2 to 4 weeks long. You'll live with one or maybe a couple of different host families. The whole point is to just dive headfirst into the language and the culture. And it's specifically for young Servas members aged 18 to 30. And get this, SYLE is just one of the options on the menu. There's a junior version for teens, a more direct youth exchange program, and even one where you can combine your stay with a volunteering project. So there's pretty much a path for any young person who's into this kind of travel. All right, I know what you're probably thinking right about now. A month-long trip to another country sounds incredible, but it also sounds, well, expensive. So let's talk about how they tackle that. And this is a really big deal. I mean, because your housing and a lot of your food is already covered by the host families, the cost is already way, way lower than a normal trip. But on top of that, Service knows that flights and other expenses can add up, so they actually have financial support to help out. So for members in the United States, this number right here is a real game changer. This is the Moger Mann Scholarship. To be specific, there are 2 of these $1,000 scholarships up for grabs every year for U.S. members who are doing a SYLE trip to study a language. The only catch? You have to be willing to share your story afterwards to help get the word out. Honestly, that sounds like a pretty sweet deal. And for all our viewers down under in Australia, the opportunity is even bigger. Service Australia offers a pretty significant scholarship to help its young people travel. This $2,000 scholarship is given out based on financial need and, just like the U.S. one, a promise from the traveler to help spread the word and get other young people excited about joining. So let's step back from all the logistics and the money for a second. What's the real, lasting impact of traveling this way? Let's go back to Miles' story one last time for the big takeaway. This right here, this is the magic of it all. Miles went to Italy to discover another culture, right? But what happened was it completely changed the way he saw his own home. That boring assembly of buildings in his city suddenly became a rich tapestry of stories. See, this kind of travel doesn't just show you the world, it actually changes the very lens you see everything through. And that kind of leaves us with this final question for you to think about. If you decided to step off that tourist trail, what stories would you find? What kind of connections would you make? And maybe most importantly, how would it change the way you see your own world when you came back home? That's a pretty powerful thought to end on.